Why are we here? We're talking about marketing. Now, what's interesting is that I taught a class recently of high school kids, and I asked them, what is marketing? And I got great answers. And about a year ago, I taught at Harvard, and I asked the same question to a bunch of grad school kids, and I got answers that I didn't understand a single word of. And you know what? That's the most interesting part about marketing. Marketing, the complexity of it lies in the simplicity. Marketing's job is to motivate the consumer to do what we want them to do when we want them to do it. How unbelievably manipulative is that for a career choice? But it is an intense responsibility. And the way to do that is to really get into their mind, to think about the relationship that you form with your consumer, not just for the moment, but for the lifetime. Now, at the core, marketing is really about positioning, which is about the art of sacrifice. So we've all been here for a couple days, but before we got here, how many of you have ever visited a buffet before? Raise your hands. How many of you have actually, keep your hands up, how many of you have actually physically felt good after eating at a buffet? Like 2 of you. There's always like one guy in the background who's got an iron stomach. The human body is not designed to digest lobster and pizza and ice cream and cake and steak at the same time. And guess what? Marketing isn't designed to do that either. The more you start using words like "and" in your brand positioning statements, the more you're asking your consumer to digest a buffet. And what that means is you have to work even harder, spend even more money, and honestly, risk the consumer not understanding who you are and what you're about. Now, I think about consumers and brands from a relationship perspective. So we all have many friends in our lives, I hope. But I want you to think about for a moment, if every friend treated you as their best friend, what would life be like? Your best friend's there every moment of the day. Your best friend would drop everything. Your best friend would cancel plans. A friend might not. And that is the difference between having a friendship and a relationship. And the premise of that applies also to business. Now, imagine if you built your business. I don't care if you're 10 million, 100 million, 200 million, or $1 billion. Imagine if you created a business model where you treated every single customer as if they were your only customer of the day. Think about what a radical concept that would do to your customer service, that would do to your CRM, that would do to your marketing, to your sales process. That, in essence, is the premise of what I call thinking human. Thinking human at its core fosters an understanding that every customer should be treated as if they were your only customer. Now, in understanding what thinking human means, it's really important to understand how consumers process. And you know, what's interesting is we all have great experiences in our lives, whether it's at a restaurant or a resort like this. And we talk about it using emotive terms. I loved the hotel. I loved that restaurant. Consumers make emotional decisions before they make rational choices. And that is so critically important as we formulate marketing strategies, as we build marketing stacks, to understand the fact that I got to get into their heart before I get into their head. And a lot of brands, unless you are curing a disease or you have revolutionized something beyond revolutionary, you've got to connect with the consumer emotionally in order to get them to make that choice. Now, in writing the book, I wanted to try to make it very easy for college students, grad students, and people who are young in their career to understand the idea of creating lasting loyalty with consumers and brands. We are all pressured every day, comp store growth, same store sales. We got to hit our numbers. We do that at the risk sometimes of creating brand love. And so as you think about the relationship zones, it's really on a very simple axis. There's trust, there's passion, and then there's asking yourself, where do you fall in? So let's first explore the notion of trust.
And I'm like, how am I going to explain trust to this third grader in front of me? So I took a deep breath and I said, Ellen, trust is like a marble jar. She said, what do you mean? And I said, you share those hard stories and those hard things that are happening to you with friends who over time you've filled up their marble jar. They've done thing after thing after thing where you're like, I know I can share this with this person. Does that make sense? And that's what Ellen said. Yes, that makes sense.
The genius of Brené Brown is in the same premise of the complexity lies in the simplicity. Trust is built one marble at a time. Think about that for a second. Is trust about grand gestures like buy one, get one free? No. That garners favor. That doesn't earn trust. Trust is about finding that small moment of care and connection. When you walk into the hotel, do they remember your name? Does the person who is in charge of housekeeping leave a handwritten note? When you walk on an airline, do they come over and thank you for your loyalty? Those are things that don't cost a lot of money, but actually make people feel important and really helps to strengthen trust. Now let's talk about passion.
Every person who comes to the ranch is in need of some form of physical or mental help. Their patients. But also every person who comes to the ranch is in charge of taking care of someone else. Whether it's cooking for them, cleaning them, or even a simple task as listening. That makes them doctors. I use that term broadly, gentlemen, but is not a doctor someone who helps someone else? When did the term doctor get treated with such reverence as, oh, right this way, Dr. Smith, or, excuse me, Dr. Scholes, what wonderful foot pads, or, pardon me, Dr. Patterson, but your flatulence has no odor. At what point in history did a doctor become more than a trusted and learned friend who visited and treated the ill? Now, you ask me if I've been practicing medicine. Well, if this means opening your door to those in need, those in pain, caring for them, listening to them, applying a cold cloth until a fever breaks, if this is practicing medicine, if this is treating a patient, then I am guilty as charged, sir.
Can anybody name the movie? Patch Adams, one of Robin Williams' probably best and most underrated movie. You know, when I work with brands and businesses and when I consult with them, the hardest thing that I find in working with a leadership team is getting the team to understand the notion of passion. And that seems ridiculous because we all go to work every day and we bring our energy. We bring our excitement. We bring our commitment. But when it comes to building marketing structures and building communication platforms and building an integrated marketing stack, we tend to lose sight of this. Don't treat the disease, treat the person. Think about it in your business. Think about what happens when you have a problem. Have you ever called customer service and they say, gee, I'm really sorry you're upset, versus, we're really sorry that we've disappointed you. Subtle mind shift, but it means a lot. So now let's start getting into the relationship zones. Let's talk about brand-like, okay? This is interesting because this is a category where really the glamour doesn't necessarily exist. There's a lot of trust, but not necessarily a lot of passion. So let me ask the question. Do I have any SaaS partners in the room? No? A couple? SaaS tends to fall in this world. And that's not a bad thing, it's just a thing. They may really trust your platform, but do they have a lot of passion for it? They have a lot of passion when it breaks. They have a lot of passion when it's not working. But are you more than just something that works behind? How do you become an integral part? How do you create that passion that exists with the leadership team? So as they're thinking about budget cuts, they never once think, you know what, this is something I'm going to cut. Without that emotional attachment, guys, you always risk the notion of being dumped for a bigger and better deal. Brand fling. This is my favorite. This is an absolute business killer. Do you guys remember the fidget spinner right around COVID, right? Those things you just sit there and you spin. Revolutionary. Product of the year. Do you guys know they came out with a sequel product called the Fidget Cube? Died on the vine. The difference between having a brand and a successful product is in understanding this. This is the equivalent of like a one-hit wonder. Do you guys remember the song, Who Let the Dogs Out? Do you have any idea any other song that group ever sang? Probably not. Okay? Brands that live in that one-hit wonder world are unbelievably challenged the next year with recreating that magic. And as smart and as talented as people are, that's really damn hard. I mean, think about every time Apple launches a new iPhone. They got to beat sales from the previous model. So this is an interesting area to be very careful of. Going viral is awesome, but being viral could be like a disease and it could really upset your business model. All right, brand hate. How do brands make money when they're hated? Ask the water company. Ask the electric company. Ask Hudson News at the airport when you're paying $9 for a bag of Twizzlers. Or you go to the movie theater and your 12-ounce Coke is 14 bucks. Or dare I'd say if you buy something here maybe. You know, they got you. But they know they got you. Okay? Brands that are in the brand hate zone still can be unbelievably profitable, but they have to know it. They have to know when you call your insurance company and you try to get a human being on the phone, you got to scream into that phone, representative, 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 or keep hitting 0. They got to know that their system is broken. Either it's I don't care or I don't need to care. Utility companies in particular live in this world. No offense if anybody's from a utility company, but you have a power outage or your water goes out, let me tell you, it is the most frustrating experience. This is a dangerous area to be, but if you are there, the good news is you can only go up. You can only go up. Now, this is my favorite, the friend zone. I'm married 21 years. Do we have single people in the audience? Couple? Okay. So, there's going to come a time in your dating life when you have feelings for somebody and you go to make that move and they give you what I call the Heisman, where it's like, whoa, wait a minute. I like you, but not in that way. You've been put into the friend zone. And that actually happens in business as well. And the way you know it is because all of a sudden your same store sales forecast is a pipe dream. You think your customers are going to come back to you. You think they have driven an unbelievable commitment to you. They like you like a friend. But you know what? Somebody invited them to a basketball game that night or a concert. They don't want to go because they found something that's bigger and better. This is a dangerous and probably the most dangerous area to play because you have no idea your strength of relationship. This is where you are not looking at your loyalty data, you're not looking at your customer lifetime value. Honestly, all you're looking at is the revenue. My counsel is to really think about the relationship that you have with these people. These are the people in the friend zone that will make or break your EBITDA. And that is a really hard fact of life because the greater percentage, the more vulnerable you are. But this is Mecca, guys. This is the golden land right here. Brand love, high passion, high trust. One of my favorite brands that I think does this well is the Ritz-Carlton. The Ritz-Carlton in their business model empowers every member of the team at the hotel to invest up to $1,500, it might be $2,500 now, to make a customer happy if something goes wrong. It could be housekeeping, it could be the concierge, it could be the front desk. What I love about the Ritz-Carlton is that when you're at the Ritz-Carlton, you're not thinking about that I'm spending $450 on the room. You're thinking about, wow, the towels are soft, the linens are soft, my room is clean, they left me chocolates on the pillow. They say hello to me when I get into the hotel elevator. Now, shift that to one of those business hotels where you may only spend $199 a night, but the sheets are like wallpaper, the towels are really small, they give you those little bars of soap, and then shit, the Wi-Fi's out. You are pissed. Are you pissed because you spent $199? Or are you pissed because it didn't meet basic expectations? It's a combination of both. This is the most important place to be. It is also the hardest place to be. Because once you're in it, you got to work even harder. Ritz-Carlton, Marriott Bonvoy, even some of the airlines are having to work really hard to keep people in that brand love world. Because here's the nasty fact, guys. We know that it is much more expensive and much more difficult to acquire a consumer than to keep one. But more effort has to go into keeping a consumer. We can't stand when we see these new deals for wireless carriers that's $30 cheaper than what I'm paying, and I call and say, I've been with you for 9 years. Yeah, but you're not a new member. Okay? They basically put you in the friend zone. The epicenter of how you evaluate whether or not you can be in one of those zones is my version of the Pythagorean theorem. Value, which whether you make 500, 5 million, 50 million, or 5 billion, everybody wants value. Value, though, is equal to the experience that is delivered divided by the price that you charge. If you are delivering a $199 experience at insert business hotel name there. You better deliver at least a $199 experience in order to be neutral. You really want to be 3 or 4 to 1. That's part of the reason why the Ritz-Carlton works so hard to ensure that you feel treated as a guest. Because they realize they're charging you $400 a night, they better deliver a $1,200 experience. This is incredibly important to process and incredibly important as you are looking back at your businesses to understand what am I charging and what am I delivering. Now, part of the challenge is the economy that we live in today. You know, I call it an experience economy. And I think the greatest example of an experience economy is Starbucks. They take a commodity, okay, that makes a good, they deliver it through a service, and all of a sudden you're willing to pay $8 for a 35-cent cup of coffee. Because it's not the coffee, it's the experience that goes around it. They understand that they can make a commodity into an experience by investing in what? Creating brand love. And Starbucks as a brand is recommitting itself to that. You have an opportunity, whether you are a SaaS company, whether you are a retailer, whether you are a wholesaler, if you can figure out how to take the commodity and create an experience around it, your consumers are never going to leave you. Or if they do, it's going to be really, really hard. So a couple key takeaways. First one, marketing. We talked about what it is. At its core, though, it is about the art of sacrifice. Do not find yourself eating at the buffet. It's not good for you. Your brand positioning, that art of sacrifice, is more than just driving what your ads look like. That is the epicenter. That's your North Star. Everything that you do, every product, every service, every experience, every sales script should really be driven by this North Star of what your brand positioning stands for. Trust. It's not through grand gestures. It is through those small moments of care and connection. Finding the opportunity to go above and beyond. You walk into a restaurant, you're a party of 4 and you have a little kid in a stroller, they put you at a table for 6 so that you can spread out. That's a small moment of care and connection. Thinking human. Imagine if we invested in creating experiences that treated every customer that walked in our door virtually or otherwise as if they were our only customer. And we didn't talk a lot about this today because of the time limit, but the notion of how do we use data? Data does not make decisions for us. We make decisions using data because, again, data is only truly as good as the questions that you ask. I'll leave you with this final thought. We are in a very, very tough economy, and we have very tough jobs. All of us do. But the pressure that we are under is also a privilege because we have the opportunity to create brand love, brand loyalty, to do really good work while doing good for people. I thank you guys for your time and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.